All this talk about investing in the stock market, but where do we start? It's really not as complicated as it seems. Let's walk through the step-by-step process to open an individual brokerage account, as well as how to make an investment once you deposit money into the account. As my grandpa says, it's as easy as applying for a library card. I'm Leah Leverage, a class of 2022 high school graduate, exploring every path to success after senior year. A big part of that success is money. Not everyone has open conversations about finances with their friends or family, and most schools don't spend a lot of time preparing us. These bonus episodes will provide you with basic financial knowledge and terminology. As you know, I have a very close relationship with my grandpa, and he wasn't thrilled that I was working instead of going to college because he thought it would be harder for me to make a living. So now every time I see him, we end up talking about money. I value these conversations so much that I want you to hear them too. So if you're feeling the pressure of entering the real world and need to know how to manage your finances in the simplest terms, let's explore our options together. It's our first day of class. This is Finance 101 on the Decision Day podcast. Grandpa, can you say the analogy that you just told me before we started recording about how easy it is to get into the stock market?
If you were able to pass a permit test,
Yeah.
you have the full capabilities to open up a brokerage account.
Okay, so
and
no
manage
excuses.
it on your own. Yes.
We can figure it out, but
Yeah.
even if you're intimidated or maybe you just want to pull up your own computer and walk through it with us step by step, dual screen, we're here for you to make it as simple as possible. So what are the different options? Like, we opened a new Google tab. What should we be searching in order to say, okay, I want to get into the stock market?
You can search for the main brokerage firms. Stick with the ones that are the most noted, such as Schwab, Fidelity, E-Trade, Robinhood, and look them over. See which one is more suited for your lifestyle, your investment goals.
So if you want to do Charles Schwab, like we are both familiar with, we're just going to do a step-by-step on how to use this. So if you go to the home page of Charles Schwab, you'll see an orange button in the top corner that says Open an Account. And when you click on that, you're going to see Individual Brokerage, Joint Brokerage, Roth IRA, Traditional IRA, and Rollover IRA. And those are all of their most popular accounts that they're giving you the option to sign up for. So what are those, Grandpa? Which one are we supposed to pick?
Start with the individual one.
Okay, individual brokerage.
That'll allow you to put money in. It's a taxable one, so you build wealth, and you might be saving money that you're going to need later to buy a house, to pay for a large purchase of some type, preferably one that doesn't lose value.
Depreciate?
Yeah.
Past episode?
Right, yeah.
So yeah, when you go to click on individual brokerage, it actually says invest in stocks, ETFs, options, bonds, and more with a personal account. So that's what we want. And then when you get to this page, this is when you're going to start to put in your personal information. So this just tells you a little bit about what you can do with a brokerage account. And then if you press the green button that says get started, this is where you put your first name, your last name, your date of birth, and your social security number. So make sure you have all of that. I'm just going to fill it in really quick. Okay, once you press continue, it's going to make you verify your contact method, and then you're going to be faced with a page that wants you to create your login. So you make an ID, you get your password, you do your security questions, and this is where it gets kind of step-by-step self-explanatory. You just want to put in all your information until you get to the final page when you have the account. So what are some of the requirements that they'll come across as they're opening their account, Grandpa?
Well, typically to open a brokerage account, you'll need your legal name, your current address, social security number, government-issued identification such as your license, your date of birth, your employment and income information, including your net worth.
Why do they need to know your net worth and how much you're making?
Well, they essentially want to see what category you are. Are you the super rich? They might want to offer you certain products. Plus, if you have a certain level of money, like, I don't know if it's over $1 million or $2 million, whatever, they want to assign an account specialist to you.
Is it like a credit card where if they see that you're not making enough, or if they see that you don't have that much to your name, that they won't let you get approved?
Well, no, it's not like that. Certain investments, like pre-IPO investments,
what's that mean?
Like an angel investor, you have to be qualified. You have to have at least $1 million net worth.
Okay.
Yeah. They're not going to offer you anything like that if you don't fit that
I
category.
understand. Okay. So we don't need to worry about that right now because
Yeah.
we're just getting started.
Right.
But when you do open it up and you start to put some money in, which you can add money to the account through the transfer section, you can link your bank account to Charles Schwab. I mean, that's the most common thing, right? Is to just have your brick and mortar bank linked so you can transfer your money when you have your paycheck and all that.
Yeah, actually, though, in a brokerage account, a lot of them now offer checking accounts.
Oh.
They offer even credit cards,
Linked to
debit cards, all linked. They're trying to be one-stop shopping for all your financial needs.
Cool. Okay. Can people get their paycheck deposited just right into their brokerage account?
Yes.
Oh, I should do that. I don't even have that set up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So once you are in and you do deposit some money, I mean, when you have an individual brokerage account, is there a limit on how much you can deposit?
No.
Is there a minimum?
No. You set up whatever you want to deposit out of your paycheck.
Okay.
When you're first starting out, you think,
Keep it
okay,
simple.
you want to, if either one of those is $560, for example, then you save $560. Well, once you save that $560, buy one share.
Once you have the money in there, there's a bunch of these things at the top. This might look super confusing and intimidating, but it's really not that bad. It'll show you graphs as you start to invest of how much your money's growing. It'll show you your total value, which is how much you currently have in the stock market. So how is the total value different from the amount of money that you've put in?
Your account value includes any gains that you've made. Now, if the market has underperformed recently, you may actually be under the amount that you put in. You may actually be a net loser. But overall, though, you have those cycles where the market is down and you lose money. But overall, you're going to, as we talked about, a 10% gain a year. So your account value minus what you put in gives you your total profit.
And then you've got, it says day change, what does day change mean? That's next to your total value.
Your brokerage account will allow you to see the value of your account every minute, essentially. You just hit refresh and it'll tell you what it is at that moment during market hours. Now, when the market's closed, then that number stagnant, stays the same.
A few more of the things that you might need to know as if you are on Charles Schwab specifically, you see your summary, which is all the graphs, all of your accounts, where you have invested. What's positions mean?
Positions refers to your holdings, your stock holdings. You could have a position in an S&P 500 exchange-traded fund that would be considered a position. A position could be also a CD. That's a position, what you're invested in.
Got it.
Each different investment is considered a position for the purpose of looking at your brokerage account.
And then if you go to balances, which is also in the top left, you can see the different accounts that you have. So I have an individual brokerage account, I've got an IRA, I've got a Roth IRA, so I can see all of the different accounts and how much are in there right now. That's the balances section. There's also a position section, which is what we just mentioned. There's a realized gain and loss section at the top. What does that mean?
Well, realized gains is when you sold and you made a gain, and the realized part is your profit. Unrealized gain is you got a gain, you didn't realize it yet because you didn't sell it. So it could change from.
So that's when you're selling the stocks. Now mine comes up as 000 all over the place because I've never sold because I'm not taking this money out until I'm older.
Realized gains is zero because you have not locked it in yet.
Okay, so it's still just growing. It's
so
still
if you
just
want
staying in there.
if you want to change the realized to another word and you say, gains that you locked in, now you got to pay taxes on those gains. If it's a taxable account. You only report to the IRS realized gains, not unrealized. They don't care about that.
There's also an investment income tab, and that is how much has been added to your account that you didn't contribute.
Yes.
So that's like the best section.
Yes, and they even estimate how much more you're going to get for the rest of the year based on your current investments. Because each investment, we didn't talk too much about it, but all the investments that I would recommend also pay a dividend. and you want to make sure those dividends get reinvested also.
And the dividends are just the money that they pay you to have your money in their stock,
Yes.
right?
Yes. We say stock, you could say equity positions, another term for holding various stocks.
There's also, this is probably the tab that I use the most often aside from the summary, which is transaction history. So this is when we do honestly have financial reviews every year and every half a year where Grandpa and I will sit down and we'll go through, okay, Leah, how much did you put into the account? We don't want to look at the summary amount of like, this is how much is in the account because I didn't contribute that. Some of that has been made through being invested in these different stocks. But if we want to see how much I've physically transferred into this account, that's where you go to transaction history, make sure your account is selected. You can choose the range. I always do current year. And then if you take filter by transaction types, you want to make sure that you have security transfers and electronic transfers. Those are the two that I always leave checked just because that's how I'm getting my money into Charles Schwab. And then that's how I can see the total amount of how much I've put in. So that's what he's checking every year to make sure I am putting a certain amount into this account, so then it'll grow for when I'm retired.
And we're also checking to make sure that the portfolio overall is performing consistent with the market. If the market, when I say the market, we usually refer to the Dow Jones or the S&P. The S&P 500 is 500 companies. The Dow Jones that you see plastered on the newspaper or the headlines is only represents 30 stocks. So the S&P is more consistent in terms of the performance of the market. Everybody gets judged against the S&P 500. So when we do a review of your portfolio, we want to make sure if the S&P 500 is up 10%, we want to be up 10%. If we're not, then we don't have a good investment mix.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
That's more what we aim to do, to verify that we're invested properly. And that goes on the way down too. Let's say the S&P 500 is down 10% and we're down 11, you're down 11, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
You know, maybe 11's okay because we're not 100% in the S&P 500 because we have some money in CDs or whatever that you know, maybe buffered that downside on the way down, but it kept us from getting the full benefit of the S&P 500 on the way up. To give you an example, go for that 10% again. Let's say the S&P 500 is up 10%, but we're up 9, but yet you have 20% of your holdings in a CD that only was invested in gaining only 3% a year. Sure, it's understandable that we didn't do 10% out of the whole account because not every investment got a 10% gain.
And I feel like if you start to watch, I mean, what's the channel you always have on TV?
CNBC.
He's always got that on in the background when we come over. So you'll start to see Dow Jones. You'll start to see them talking about S&P 500, and these terms will just get more familiar. But also, he's become the expert just because he's constantly got it on, constantly playing and feeding into his mind. But if we actually wanted to buy a stock, like let's say you wanted to buy a share of S&P 500, you've got the amount of money in there to buy one. You would go to the trade tab at the top left if you're on Charles Schwab, and it says stocks and ETFs, just because the S&P 500 is one of those. And then if you enter the symbol, this one is IVV. I'm literally doing this as I'm saying it. It'll say action, quantity, order type, limit price. So the action is going to be buy. The quantity, that's how many shares you want to buy. So one would be right now, currently, November 2nd, $576.43. The order type, we've got market, limit, stop limit, trailing stop, and market on close. Grandpa, which one do we pick?
Yeah, generally, if you're behind in the S&P 500, just for a round number, if it's trading at $500, you could put a limit order. If you're investing a lot of money, you always want to do limit because you don't want the stock to move up while you're putting the order in and then go back down. So you say, I want to limit 500. That means I want to pay $500. That's it.
Right, because as you're going to buy it, you'll see the number constantly changing.
It'll be changing. So you might end up paying more than you expected if you put a market order. Market order means whatever the price is trading at, go ahead, pay that price.
So it'll buy it immediately.
Yes.
If you put limit, and you set the amount,
it'll-
like $500, it won't buy it until the
It
stock
hits
is at
that.
$500.
Yeah, exactly that amount.
Okay. Normally, I just do market just so that I
Yeah.
can just get it bought,
Yeah.
because if we're playing with like
Right.
76 cents,
A few
75
shares,
cents, yeah.
a few shares, it doesn't matter. You know, you're
Yeah.
talking pennies. But if you're buying $1 million worth of a stock,
You want to buy it at your price, right?
yeah, you want to squeeze every penny out of it.
Yeah. And then once you have your order type and the price in there, you go to review order. And then review, make sure everything looks right. You always want to like triple check, make sure, because you don't want to mess this up. And then you place the order, and then congratulations, you officially bought your first share of a stock if you follow that method.
Most systems are set up in a way so that, let's say you put an extra zero, you're buying 100 shares of a stock that costs $600 a share, and you don't have enough money in your balance. Usually it'll get kicked out, unless you have a margin account, which means that you're going to borrow the money from the broker.
Oh.
You know, and they lend you the money to buy those extra shares. But you're not going to start with a margin account. When I first started, I was waiting. You used to have to call up the broker. Hey, can you check on my stock? What is Eastman Kodak at today? And they would tell you, okay, it's 55 7/8. Okay, thank you, and hang up.
Wow.
They didn't have online trading. They didn't have it. As soon as they came out with online trading, I forgot which firm it was, because there's been so many changes in that, companies being bought out by another one over and over again. But I remember the first one that came out, I think I was one of the first people that logged into that site on the dial-up internet system, and started filling out the application. I wanted in on that trading. They offered free quotes also if you opened up an account.
Yeah.
And that means I could check my positions, what I was holding. I could check my stock value every single minute of the day.
Which is what we have now.
That was amazing. Yeah, I know, but now everybody takes it for granted. But I must have been one of the first ones in the country to open up a brokerage trading account.
Look at that. Yeah. See, it's really not as hard as it seems. If he could do it back then, we can absolutely do it now with all the resources available
now it's
for
really
us.
easy now.
So I hope that helped you, the step-by-step of how to open an account, how to actually get your money invested into the stock market. This might be the most valuable episode we've ever done. Stay tuned for part 3, or check out part 3 of this series of how to become a smart investor now that you are invested. And we can't wait to share a new perspective with you in the next episode. If you have any specific questions, remember you can reach out to decisiondaypodcast@gmail.com or on social media @decisiondaypodcast. We love to hear what you're confused about in terms of finances, so that this expert over here can answer all of our questions. Thank you, Grandpa, for another episode. We'll talk to you later.
Great job, Leah, as usual. You got all the right ingredients to guide everyone through this process.